Wow, stories.
For context, I go to school full-time, work almost full-time, and do all the house duties. I also cook every night for my husband and I. My husband's a picky eater, so I always ask him what he wants, and I make it for both of us. Very rarely will we eat quick meals like a frozen pizza. I always make him homemade food. During the summer, I am taking 9 units while working as an academic mentor, teaching students over the summer to prepare them for their next year's courses. This obviously requires extensive prep time for lecture planning and creating homework assignments for each one. I'm taking 2 6-week courses and 1 12-week. Right now I am in an engineering class and a statistics class, which requires a lot of lecture time and study time. A few weeks ago, I was going to get some important paperwork done in LA, dual citizenship related. This appointment in LA was early in the morning, and I had a flight at around 5 a.m., which requires me to wake up at 2 a.m. to get there on time. This appointment was scheduled on a Friday. I work 9-6 on Thursday. I also have lectures to watch, and since it's a 6-week course, each session takes about 4 hours of lecture. I have 4 sessions a week. So I got home at around 6:30 the Thursday before my appointment in LA and began watching my lectures and taking notes. Also, I should mention now, my husband only works. He works about 25-30 hours a week. I asked him if he could take us to order takeout this night. He replied with, "Why?" And I explained to him I had about 3 more hours of lecture to get through and had to wake up at 2 a.m., and that I worked an 8-hour, so I was already exhausted. He seemed to still not understand why I want to get takeout, so I said, "Can you just take us to get something simple like McDonald's? It's super close." He replied, "Well, I want spaghetti." Wouldn't it take the same amount of time getting McDonald's than you cooking spaghetti? I make my spaghetti and meat sauce from scratch. I didn't want to argue with him after everything, so I just made it. He didn't even know I was upset until the next day. I explained to him that I never ask for a break or really anything from him in general. So when I ask for a break, I expect to get it. I ended up getting about an hour of sleep that night with more assignments to do the next day still. Fast forward to a few days ago. Also, remember how my husband is a picky eater? I never get to make what I want for dinner because he just complains about it. I found a pasta recipe that looks so good and have been debating on making it. And I finally said I was going to do it. My husband likes pasta, so I thought it would be perfect. I told him I was excited to try this and that I was going to go shopping for the ingredients after he left for work. He said, "Okay." I went shopping and got everything. I also pay for all the groceries. And he texted me a couple of hours later saying, "Are you still making pasta? We should get McDonald's tonight," I was like, and said, "Do you really not want my cooking so bad that you want McDonald's?" And he said, "Not what I meant." And I said, "What did you mean then?" And he said, "Why do you get mad at me for not taking you to McDonald's, then get mad for offering to take you to McDonald's?" I explained to him exactly why I was upset and how these situations were different. Last time I asked for a break. And this time I was excited to make one dinner that I wanted. And it just so happens it's the same night he wants to take me to McDonald's. We haven't talked in a few days and need some advice or guidance. I especially need ways for him to understand why I am upset. During this time we were house and pet, sitting for his family. And I just moved everything back home after he told me, "If you want to get mad at me for offering to take you to McDonald's, go home." There are a lot of other factors that go into this. Like, for example, he doesn't even help me clean up the kitchen after I cook. I feel like his mom and not his partner or wife. Now for an update. I went over last night to get our pet bunnies that we took to his parents' house. He was there. As I was packing, all he did was watch and ask, "Why are you taking the bunnies?" And I said that I didn't trust him to take care of them the way I do and have been. He said he has, and I asked if he even changed their litter box once, which I do every day, and he was silent. I said exactly and packed my stuff. I let him know as I was leaving. I said, "I'm not going to talk to you tonight about our situation. I will not be the one to initiate because I only did in the past. I want you to come to me, come to our house, and want to fix things like I do. So you're going to have to show up and be open for talking. You can come tomorrow night," which is today. I worked again today and had a lot of schoolwork. I wished early to have time to talk to him. He went out with his friends. It's currently 9:35 p.m. and is still at his parents' house. I really thought he would care enough about me to just show up. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Why can't your husband make his own spaghetti when he wants it? Why isn't he cooking for you every day, given that you do so much more work than him? You appear far more grown up and mature than your husband, who still seems to want a mommy to take care of him. I'm sorry to tell you this, but this will not get any better. You will continue to mature and realize just how much of an immature brat he is. This is who he is. Why did you choose to get married so young? And why to this guy? How did he show before marriage that he was a capable, caring, empathetic life partner? Comment 2. Why? Why do you do all the cooking and chores even though you have a job and school? Why? I don't understand women who put up with being maids. He doesn't love you. No one who loves you is okay with you doing everything. My advice is to tell him he has to start being an actual partner, that you're not his mommy, and you're not going to clean and cook for him anymore. That if he doesn't pick up half the load, you and he are done. If you don't, then this is your life. And when you have kids, you'll be doing all the parenting too. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for reading. So, after my husband didn't show up that night, I decided to give him another day. I thought maybe he needed more time to process everything. But the next day, he still didn't come home. I was starting to feel really frustrated and hurt. I had a lot of schoolwork and work responsibilities piling up, and the emotional stress was just making everything worse. I decided to text him, asking if he planned on coming home to talk. He replied with a simple, "I'm still thinking." That was it. No apology, no explanation, just that. The following day, I had a major project due for my engineering class. I was up all night working on it, and I barely got any sleep. I was exhausted, both physically and emotionally. I couldn't focus on my work, because all I could think about was how my husband didn't seem to care about fixing our relationship. I decided to take a break and went for a walk to clear my head. While I was out, I got a call from my mother-in-law. She asked if everything was okay because my husband had been staying with them and seemed really down. I didn't want to get into the details with her, so I just said we were having some issues and needed some space. When I got back home, I found a note on the kitchen counter. It was from my husband. He wrote that he was sorry for not being there for me and that he needed some time to figure things out. He said he felt overwhelmed by everything and didn't know how to handle it. He also mentioned that he would be staying at his parents' house for a while to give us both some space. I felt a mix of relief and sadness. At least he acknowledged that there was a problem. But it hurt that he chose to run away instead of facing it with me. That night, I decided to make the pasta dish I had been excited about. I needed something to lift my spirits, and cooking has always been therapeutic for me. As I was preparing the ingredients, I started thinking about our relationship and how things had gotten to this point. I realized that I had been doing everything to keep our lives running smoothly, but I hadn't been taking care of myself. I was always putting his needs first, and it was taking a toll on me. The next day, I had a long conversation with my best friend. She reminded me that I deserved to be treated with respect and that it was okay to ask for help. She also suggested that I take some time to focus on myself and my own needs. I decided to take her advice and started setting some boundaries. I made a list of things that I needed from my husband if we were going to make this work. I needed him to help with the house chores, to be more understanding of my workload, and to show more appreciation for the things I do. I texted my husband and asked if we could meet to talk. He agreed, and we decided to meet at a coffee shop near his parents' house. When we sat down, I could see that he was nervous. I started by telling him how I felt and what I needed from him. I explained that I couldn't keep doing everything on my own, and that I needed him to step up. He listened quietly and then apologized for not being there for me. He said he didn't realize how much I was struggling and that he wanted to make things right. We talked for a long time, and it felt like we were finally getting somewhere. He agreed to help more around the house and to be more supportive of my workload. We also decided to set aside some time each week to talk about our feelings and any issues that might come up. It wasn't a perfect solution, but it was a start. As we were leaving the coffee shop, he mentioned that he had been feeling a lot of pressure from his job and that he didn't know how to handle it. He said he felt like he was failing as a husband and that he didn't want to let me down. I told him that we were a team and that we needed to support each other. It was a moment of vulnerability that I hadn't seen from him in a long time, and it made me realize that he was struggling too. Over the next few days, we started working on our relationship. He came home and began helping with the chores. He even cooked dinner one night, which was a big step for him. We had our first weekly check-in, and it felt good to talk openly about our feelings. It wasn't easy, and there were still moments of tension, but we were making progress. One evening, as we were cleaning up after dinner, he told me about a conversation he had with his father. His dad had reminded him of a time when his parents went through a rough patch and how they had to work together to get through it. It made him realize that he needed to put in the effort to make our marriage work. It was a small anecdote, but it showed me that he was committed to making things better. Looking back, I realized that we both had a lot of growing to do. We needed to learn how to communicate better and to support each other. It wasn't going to be easy, but I was hopeful that we could get through it together